Hi, I'm Samantha,
And I'm Scott, the punk half of Frenchy and the Punk.
and you're watching.
Concerts that made us.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us, concerts that made us.com.
Samantha and Scott, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I'm looking forward to diving into your music now over the next bit. So first off, you recently released your eighth album, Midnight Garden. It's a slice of sonic perfection, in my opinion. Take us a bit deeper into it if you can.
Thank you for that, by the way. Take us deeper into Midnight Garden. What do you think, Samantha?
Well, it's sort of the second album in a sort of a new series of albums, it feels like to us. Zen Ghost that came out in 2022 was written during 2020, and things kind of shifted for us. And Midnight Garden is sort of a continuation of that. So it's delving deeper into part of our sound that we always had, but we're sort of bringing it up and highlighting it. So it's that kind of more dark wave, kind of post-punk type of sound.
Yeah, I think the COVID and the pandemic stuff really did affect us. I mean, lots of stuff was happening. The political climate, was insane. My mom passed away. COVID happened. It was kind of an intense time. So it did seem to really kind of change
Yeah.
things a bit.
I mean, we were home for an entire year like everybody else, for the first time in I don't even know, because we're on the road so much. It's very rare for us to be home. So I feel like it gave us time to really discover the path that we wanted to go on. And it kind of happened organically, like everything
Totally. Yeah.
that has happened in the past 18 years of playing music together.
Right, right. Bit of a tough one now, but if the last couple of years had been different, COVID never happened, all that stuff, what would this record be like, or what would the band be like?
Interesting question. That's a good one. I tend to think that it's just the way it was supposed to be. It's just kind of
Yeah.
how, it's all been shifting. And then that just kind of, in a way, COVID, and being home gave us time to really focus on it and make it happen maybe quicker. But I definitely think it's just,
Yeah.
it's meant to be maktub, as they say.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. When it comes to making new music, new records for you guys, what does the process look like? Who does what? What sort of collaborations do you do?
We work on everything together, but a lot of times, I'm playing guitar. Either we're in a hotel or at home. I'm always playing guitar, working on riffs. So I record riffs into my phone and chord progressions and ideas like that. Samantha has different, lyrical ideas. I think we just kind of get together, and Samantha kind of, you'll see if lyrics are attached to some of
Yeah.
the riffs I write.
Like when I hear his riffs, I can sense, or lyrics are definitely either attached or not. Like I can hear a riff and say, there's nothing attached. I can't use that. And then there's another one that instantly there's like a whole visual aspect to the riff. For me, it's a very visual actually when I think about it. So it will spark maybe just a few words and everything emanates from those words. Or it's a concept that I just kind of dive into. But it's very stream of consciousness, and it's very based on what I'm hearing and what I'm sensing from the riffs that he's
riffs,
coming
yeah.
up with.
And I used to be a bass player, so my guitar riffs, when sometimes it's not just chords. Most of the times it's actually just single notes on the guitar, like a bass line. So that's kind of how it starts there. And then I like to kind of work it out with a looper and loop the riff and maybe put a beat to it to get some other part and melody ideas to see what kind of works around the vocals and the parts and stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like there's like a story in there. Sonically, there's a story that I just need to translate into my experience and make it into a lyrical form.
Like it. I like it. You know, when you came up with the idea for this album, you obviously didn't know how it was going to turn out. So how does the finished version hold up to that original idea?
Interesting, because I think it's so organic and natural that it's just really, we go with the flow. We did have this idea of the Midnight Garden for the title, but the songs just kind of flow, and it's a really organic, natural process, and it just kind of evolves over this short amount of time for writing the record.
Yeah. I think also what I love about this record is that I'm getting more and more involved in the creation of the sound. Like, I don't come from necessarily like a musician background. I was a dancer, artist. I played piano when I was a kid, and I always loved to sing, but it was never it never entered my mind that I would be a singer, percussionist, in a band. So for this record, I'm bringing in keys and synth, and I feel like it feels like painting to me, because I feel like I'm painting sonically, and that's very exciting because I'm all about being creative and expressing. So that was my goal in life, was to lead a creative life. So the more this project evolves, the more I feel like I'm really digging in and experiencing that. So that's very exciting for me.
That's really propelled the last two records to
Yeah.
your addition, with the keyboard sounds and some just cool ideas that maybe, that I didn't think of on guitar or bass or whatever.
Yeah. Can we expect going forward then more of an evolution, that we'll see you maybe doing more instruments and more things with records?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I'm definitely learning more and more about the whole synthesizer thing, which is very exciting. It's so different than just, piano, because you can manipulate the sound so much. So I definitely want to delve more into that.
Scott, you'd want to be careful now, because when she runs out of instruments, she'll eventually come to guitar,
Right.
Oh, I wish I played guitar. I played ukulele when I grew up in England, and I used to play Skip to My Lou on a tiny little ukulele. That's all I knew how to play.
It's one thing that's cool though about being a guitar player and a bass player, and I came from the punk scene and the metal scene, thrash metal and all that. I always liked I loved Kraftwerk when I was a kid. While I was listening to Discharge and Motorhead and this stuff and all this stuff, it was like I was into like synth stuff. So it's like not like it's not like it's a threat. Like I imagine it could be like, oh, you're bringing that in there? No, it's just a cool mix. And a lot of bands I grew up on had all that, guitars and synths and the post-punk bands and stuff. So I have no problem with it. It's cool.
Nice, nice. Is there any, maybe from a performance point of view, is there any tracks on the record that you guys gravitate more towards?
The title track, Midnight Garden, is
so fun to play.
It's really fun to play. I think one of my favorite songs on the record, maybe this might be a question, I don't know, is Hypnotized.
Yeah, it's fun too. That's very
That's a really fun one.
Yeah, I do. I mean, from a dance background, I love dance. I mean, to me, it's just, you just feel like you can do anything. Everything is possible. Like for me as a dancer. So to do something like Hypnotized, or actually that's the most dancey one probably on the album, is super fun.
Yeah, yeah. You guys, you had a lot of shows over the summer. How was the music going down live? What was the reactions?
Great.
Really good.
The tour we did in the UK, and we did in England and Scotland, was the best one we've done there yet. That was great. We came back to the States and did a bunch of shows. it's like every year it kind of seems like it just gets better and better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people really digging the new stuff. I don't know if it's just more focused or we hit this spot where it just seems to really connect. We feel it. Like, you can feel it. Like it's something is happening.
Must be very exciting. Yeah. Bit of a controversial one now. You guys, you've played in UK, in Europe, in the States. Which audience is better?
Gosh, that's not a good question.
Well, unfortunately, unfortunately, we haven't played in Ireland
How would
yet.
we do that?
And we haven't played in Ireland yet, so we can't suck up and say Ireland was the best. I'm sure it would be amazing. We love to. I mean, we do love the shows in the UK, but I think it's just really if the audience, if we're connected and on, and the audience is digging it, and the sound is great, and just all the things align.
Yeah.
It's wherever it is.
I think
you know?
playing in Europe has like a special thing for me since I was born in France and I grew up in England. To be able to play over there, I feel so connected that it brings on a whole other dimension for me. So I feel super grateful that we can go over there and do that. But
I kind of lean towards to Europe and England too, in a way, because most of, I mean, there's American bands I love, but most of the bands I listened to when I was a kid were all from Europe, UK, England. It's just how, I don't know, it's how it worked out, even though I'm wearing a Deborah Harry shirt right now. But and you have a California shirt.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even realize. Good answer, though. Good answer. Now, for any listeners or viewers not aware, you formed in 2005. What has your journey been like? Give us some insights into it.
Yeah. When we started out, I had just been, I had done all the whole punk and metal thing, and then I switched to acoustic guitar from bass guitar, and I was doing instrumental music. And then when Samantha joined, we were still kind of doing instrumental stuff, and you just started doing percussion. And then we kind of morphed into a little bit more cabaret, kind of upbeat stuff. And then just all our influences just started pouring in. So it has been just, this kind of slow evolution over time.
Yeah, it's like really increments. I kind of feel like I approach this more as an artist than a musician. And maybe an artist and performer, since I was so used to being on stage as a dancer. And then I kind of left that world and was doing visual arts, painting and sculpture. I was really connected with the sculpture. And doing the music thing, which was so unexpected, like I said before. I mean, I was really just doing percussive accents on his instrumentals. And by chance, on tour, this was like probably 2006 or 7, he started playing a riff one morning, and I heard lyrics to it, but they were all in French, which surprised me because the riff he was doing sounded like a train to me. And just this whole song just poured out, and it's called Le Train. Le Train ne passe. It's all about this train that passes through this girl's town, and she watches it go by every day, and she wants to go somewhere else. She wants to live her dream or whatever. Anyway, so there's that whole storyline behind that. And then the first record that we did with lyrics, it's all in French. And I didn't do that on purpose. And I don't know if it's because French was my first language that happened. So everything we've done is so incredibly organic, so then I started to, write in English, and then, it's just like these little increments. So it's been, for me, it's a journey of being an artist. Whereas Scott is musician to the core, like it's
Totally.
Since he was a kid, like he started performing on stage at the age of 13.
Yep.
As a musician, so we're coming from very different places.
It works though. It definitely works. Yeah. Before we move on, a bit of an interesting one. When you guys butt heads, I'm sure it rarely happens, but when you butt heads, there's disagreements. How do you sort it out?
That's a funny question. You got great questions.
Yeah.
We actually, oddly enough, we don't really butt heads that much. trying to think, how do we sort it out?
I'm trying to think of when we've butted heads.
Yeah. I think in the early days, it's probably this. This is only thing I can. In the early days, I used to be like, "Let's do shows,
Okay.
play, tour," and you're like, "Hold up, I need a break."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Why? We need to play." You know, and it's like,
Yeah.
think I had to learn to chill out a bit. Like, we don't have to accept every show that comes our way
Yeah.
and be on the road 365.
That's actually amazing. You actually remembered that, because that is a point of contention.
It stuck with me so much.
Because in 2013, I was literally exhausted. I mean, so exhausted. I was like it was like I was having outside, I was out of my body, exhausted. I couldn't catch up. And I actually took a break. I did something kind of extreme. I went and did a Vipassana meditation course, and which is a 11-day thing. You go there, and for 10 days you meditate 11 hours a day, and you cannot speak, you cannot look at anybody, you can't do anything but meditate, eat, and sleep, and walk. And it brought me back inside my body, and I was able to rest so to my core. That's what I needed, and I feel like everything has been better since then. But before that, we were just, tour, and it just, yeah.
Right.
Probably more of an answer than you expect.
I'm like a dog. When you give him food, he just keeps eating and eating and eating and eating. Doesn't know how to stop. It's like the same thing with gigs. It's like, keep on going. Just play another gig. But you're exhausted. You haven't slept. Just play another gig.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of thinking pure peace and silence for 11 hours a day sounds like heaven. I'd love that.
Amazing.
That sounds like a nightmare to me.
I know.
Really?
There's no way. Plus, you go in, they take your phones, you have no contact with the outside world. It is absolutely amazing. I loved it. Yeah.
Now, the podcast is called Concerts That Made Us. So I have to ask you some concert related questions, if you don't mind. First off, as a concert goer, what shows would you say have made you?
As a concert goer, what shows have made me? I can think of several. I'll mention several. I saw the Ramones in 1984, I think, at a college in Massachusetts. And I was like a huge Ramones fan. So it was the first time I'd seen them live. And just like, wow, it just kind of blew my mind. That was a cool one. I saw the Dead Kennedys in Boston. And that was the first time as a 14-year-old that I went into like the pit and did some slamming, moshing, and I got a boot in the face, and I never went back in the pit. I'm like, okay, I'm 5'5". I'm not gonna, tangle with someone who's like 6'4" and 800 pounds. So, whatever, full of muscle. So I didn't do that. And then probably one of the most, mind-blowing experiences was seeing Motorhead in 1981 on the Ace of Spades tour, because it was in a huge arena. I had never been to an arena with like 15,000 people before, and people were throwing these M80 bombs around, just exploding everywhere, and the lights were still on. And then Lemmy in the band, rest of the band comes out, Fast Eddie, and just the lights were still on. He just kind of threw a cigarette, and just, "We are Motorhead," and just started blasting, and it blew my mind. It's like, this is the most amazing, powerful thing I've ever seen. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
I'm not surprised.
It was just amazing. I was like, wow, flabbergasted. And Ozzy Osbourne with Randy Rhoads played after, and that was great too. But the Motorhead show, just something about the power and his his spirit and his just like kind of badassery, it was just like really cool, and it was just made a huge impression on me. And then another one is kind of a different thing, is this guy Michael Hedges, who is a new age guitar player who has since passed, but really cool, amazing hand tapping technique. I saw him at a college in Massachusetts, and that kind of opened my mind to being able to play instrumental music. That's why I write a lot of instrumental music on the side. That like, wow, you can actually write songs without words. Because I mean, up until then, I hadn't really heard that much. There's a few things on the radio, but it's pretty rare. So that kind of opened doors too in my mind for musical possibilities.
Man, That's quite a list.
Sorry. See, I just talk about the Motorhead thing. I got so excited. I'm like, "Whew," like sweating. Sorry.
Well, I am on the polar opposite of that because I didn't really go to concerts.
Right.
When we came to this country, to America, my parents were very protective of us, and especially me. I guess I was a little bit of a wild child. So I wasn't allowed to go to concerts, and I didn't really see much music besides the jazz band that my dad played in. So I would see that, but I don't think it made, and didn't really affect me. I think what affected me more were certain movies or like a play I saw when I was a kid, Death of a Salesman. I think that made a huge impact on my psyche about not wanting to live a mundane life. So yeah, I can't really speak to concerts that really affected me in what we're doing.
Okay. Okay. I kind of like the polar opposites though. You've been to like a show everybody would want to go to, and then it's nice. It works. It works.
Frenchy and
And
the Punk.
yeah. And for any listeners that haven't been lucky enough to catch one of your shows, what are they like? Give us the full experience if you can.
A Frenchy and Punk show.
Yeah.
One thing I would say we always get, and we know this, is energy. We're both very fiery people, so there's definitely a lot of energy pouring off the stage from two people. We make a lot of sound for two people because I do live looping with the guitar and riffs and using the guitar as a bass for bass lines and doing live percussion and looping that. Samantha does all sorts of pounding percussion.
Yeah, I have my cymbals and I have, I do the percussive elements as well. And now with the keyboard. So it is a very full sound. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just the energy and fieriness
Yeah,
of
we're
it.
very fiery on stage. Yeah.
Like it. Like it. Sounds like a great show. If you think of all the shows you guys have played over your entire career, is there one that sits above the rest? Just couldn't have got any better.
I can think of two. Actually, one this year. We played this festival called Mythicon in Pennsylvania. It's it's a smaller festival. There's only maybe 500 people or something, and it's indoors in a hotel, which can be a little odd, but we do a lot of those. But the reaction to the new songs, it was probably one of the like we were taken aback by we've had a lot of good shows. We had some weird shows. This one was particularly like the reaction was kind of amazing. Like, and that kind of sticks in my mind. Like, wow, everything clicked. We felt great. It sounded great. People were into it. It was pretty.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
it was sort of like you're on the right track feeling. I'd forgotten about that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. What comes to mind for me is a show we did probably was it the first Dragon Con or the second Dragon Con? We did this very large stage, and I remember because I don't think we had done too many large stages back then. This was maybe 2010 or 2011. And I remember turning my back to the audience. It was packed. I mean, there was so many people. It was huge. And I turned my back to the audience like, all right, like kind of talking to myself and psyching myself up. And then I suddenly just said to myself, I own this stage. And I turned around and the feeling was so amazing that I had committed in a way to myself that I was going to deliver. And it was an incredible show. And I love playing on big stages. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That
like
kind
it.
of, yeah, what pops into my mind.
I know I shouldn't add one, but I'm going to add one more.
Go on.
But it's actually not a Frenchy and a Punk show. My first band in the early 80s was Deep Wound, and those guys went off and played in a band called Dinosaur Jr., and they opened up for the Foo Fighters in like 2018 at Fenway Park, which is a baseball stadium, 20,000 people in Boston. And I got to go up and do a song with them. So that was amazing because it was the band I started with Lou, the bass player, guitar player, bass player, back when we were 14, and to kind of full circle, 30 years later, to play a stadium just playing like a minute and a half hardcore punk rock song was pretty mind blowing. That was pretty cool.
That's a real pinch me moment.
Yeah.
And here's a fun one. If we take that question and flip it around, maybe in the early days, is there a gig you would consider the worst? Everything fell apart, and how did you overcome it?
The worst gig.
Well, gosh, I don't know. One thing that comes to mind, this is a little odd perhaps. We were doing a show. We had played the Saturday night. It was a weekend event. And they had asked us to play Sunday morning, like a more like mellow, well, not mellow, but yeah, like a different kind of set on the Sunday morning. And it was ridiculously early. I don't remember what time it was. This was a long time ago. And I was out of it. I was tired. It had been, a rockin' night the night before. So I was a little out of it. And the audience was completely out of it. I mean, everyone was hungover. And we started doing one of the songs. I don't remember what song it was. And I was screwing up the lyrics so badly. And I actually stopped and I blamed the audience. I was so, that's a horrible thing to do. I'd never done that before. But I basically made it, I don't remember what I said, that their lack of energy was somehow not helping me.
That's hilarious. I remember that.
And to this day, I mean, afterwards, I just couldn't believe I had actually done that, because I guess I was so tired. I couldn't believe I had actually somehow managed to blame the audience. So I have never, ever since then, ever done anything like that. But it was a moment of like, wow, that's not a cool place to go to.
Man.
I can't really think of any like terrible. I think my mind just kind of blocks them out.
Just admit they don't happen. There's no terrible gigs.
Oh, there's been plenty of shows, I'm sure. It's like, oh, the sound is an issue, or I can't hear myself in the monitor, or there's feedback, or, there's like stuff like that. But that's just part of what we do, but no one.
We haven't had any Jane's Addiction moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully.
Not to make fun of that, because I feel bad about that. That stuff happens.
Yeah,
True,
we're
true.
pretty low key, kind of
Offstage.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, if there's strange things that happen. Like one time there was a gig we were doing in a bar, and a fight broke. Oh no, the guy sat on the edge of the stage in the middle of us playing a song, and said, with a sign that said $5 blowjobs, and we were like, what is happening? And then someone just started like trying to get him out, and a fight broke out, and like chairs were flying, and
Glasses are
and we were
breaking.
like, okay, we should probably stop playing now.
And you were like that, but I was like, just keep on playing.
Of course he wanted to keep on.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, good. And before we dive into the last couple of questions, then, future plans. I know you've got some gigs coming up. Is there anything else you can share with us?
Future plans are kind of always the same in a way. We like you said, we have a bunch of shows coming up on the West Coast and around the U.S. We have some videos planned for the new record. We haven't, really got the whole concept yet. So we do want to do some new videos for the record. And we probably just, after the cycle of touring and stuff, we're going to get right back and do another record. So
New music, new tours.
Yep.
We live and breathe this stuff. This is what we do. It's all we do. I mean, literally, we live and breathe this stuff. Yeah.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Plenty to look forward to. So, right, we'll dive into the last couple. There are a couple of fun random ones, but I'm intrigued to see your answers. First off, besides music and the band, what are you currently obsessed with?
Well, I just did something this past weekend that I haven't done in a very long time. We actually had Saturday and Sunday off, which is very unusual. And I used to take classes, sculpture classes at the Art Students League in New York City. And I had gotten an email last week that there were workshops happening. and there was a workshop for aqua resin that I thought, wow, I could actually do this. I have Saturday and Sunday off. And I went and took these workshops, and now I'm obsessed with the idea of creating like, new sculpture type pieces and how I can incorporate that with the concept of what we do. And so I'm super excited about exploring that I could say in my free time, but there is no free time. So I don't know when that's going to happen. I am kind of, I do a lot of sewing too for what we do, but I guess that's music related. So yeah, I would have to go with doing some kind of sculpture stuff.
Yeah, it's weird. I was trying to think of anything music related. I was like, oh, I go to
Not
concerts.
music
Oh, that's
related.
not music related. I'm like, oh, I go to concerts all the time. Oh, that's music. And like, oh, I work on my pedal board because I have a big, pedal board with different pedals. I'm always working on that. That's music related. So
Everything you do is music
yeah.
related. I don't
Not a
know.
bad thing.
Yeah, I do like movies, but we don't really get to see a lot of movies. But that's not music related.
I don't think that's something we're obsessed with, though. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe I
Okay.
should find something, right?
Yeah. If you have the time, it sounds like you don't.
We don't. Well, that's the thing. I mean, we're so DIY that we're literally like, I'm actually making merchandise, so I make little finger puppet bats. I love bats. I always have since I was a kid in England, and we had lots of bats at dusk. And so I do a lot of sewing. We do all the artwork and designs of all of our merchandise. So we film, and I edit all of our music videos. I do all of the like Photoshop stuff for the posters and flyers. I mean, literally, the only thing we don't do is record our own music.
Yeah.
And we don't print our own t-shirts, but basically everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it keeps us
man.
super busy.
Yeah, I could imagine. The next one, it's a bit odd. If you had to spend 24 hours locked in a room with any musician or artist from history, who would it be?
I like that question. That's a good one.
Well, the fact that I would be locked in a room, I'm a little bit claustrophobic. So what popped into my head is Joanne Shenandoah is a Native American chant musician. She chants Native American songs. And I have this CD called Iroquois Women's Songs, and it's very nurturing and peaceful. And I feel like if I'm locked in a room, I need something peaceful. And I think she would be amazing to chant with, to just be able to, go to, I'm very into that whole meditation thing anyway. So, yeah, I think I pick that.
I'm not totally sure who I would pick, but it would probably be some guitar player, or maybe Ennio Morricone, maybe Dick Dale, Glenn Tipton, who's a guitar player of Priest. Just to see how they work out their riffs. Even Django Reinhardt from the 1920s, who's like a gypsy jazz guitar player. It'd be interesting to see how he played all that stuff with two fingers. Yeah.
It's good selection. Good selection. And the final question, your go-to album, an album you constantly revisit.
British Steel.
I like it.
Yeah, there's a lot of records I do go back to and very different kinds of music, and I'm mentioning a lot of metal and stuff here, but I do tend to go back to that British Steel record because it is a little bit more straightforward record for them. I don't know if it's really poppy or it's more simple, but there's the power and the riffs are just so concise, and to me it seems perfect. I go back to that record a lot. I was obsessed with it as a kid, and it's one of those records that stuck with me. And yeah, British Steel.
Wow. Well, there is an album that I tend to go to when I just want like a feel good thing is Dire Straits is Making Movies. I don't know why. There's something about that album that just from start to finish.
Great guitar player.
I love everything about that album.
Great
Yeah.
songwriter too, yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Two very good ones there. And again, kind of opposites, kind of. Listen, guys, this has been so much fun. Thanks a million.
Yeah, it
Thank
has been
you.
fun. Yeah,
Thank you
totally.
so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us, concerts that made us.com.